Source maps are unsettling. You most likely heard someone throw this statement around the internet, whether that would be in the depths of some Counter-Strike subreddit, the GMOD community, or some person on YouTube. Source game maps tend to create this uncanny, eerie, and isolated feeling that deeply disturbs the player into feeling not real. Like everything that is around you feels to be so unnatural that you feel like you've spawned into some place where you literally don't belong. In the latest years, the term liminality has started to be heavily thrown around in the Garry's mod community after the sudden explosion of the creepypasta concept that was the backrooms, and especially after the Kane Pixels virality. But this video is not about liminality. In fact, this video is about a Garry's mod map that has so much more to discuss and bring to the table than just the textures that make the player feel weird and creeped out. And the name of this Garry's mod map is Vacant Industry. But what exactly is this map? Vacant Industry is an exploration type of map, which grants you the ability to roleplay, or if simply put, just do whatever comes to your mind. It's not a horror map where you just jump on with your friends to get a few good spooks and jump scares, and it's certainly not a liminal. June 6, 2023 was the day when Vacant Industry appeared on the Garry's mod Steam workshop community. The main creator of this map is the Steam user Garry the Reactor, but other users have also contributed in different aspects of map creation, such as modeling, sounds, textures, and much more. The 5-star rated map is subscribed by more than 65,000 players, with ratings nearing the 2,000 mark. So as you can probably guess, the map is pretty good. But whilst it is clear that the map has amassed a good reputation, the real question is, what's so incredibly interesting about an exploration map? In the map's workshop, there's an about section which lists the contributors to this map, what the map contains, and a small block of information about the map's lore. Notice begins by addressing all personnel of IRO, an international research organization, that a large ice shelf in the Antarctic has broken off into the ocean, which revealed a large unidentified industrial building that has no brand or country that associates with it. After many tries to establish contact with the interior of the facility, all the times have been met with silence. Afterwards, the notice ends by stating that a specialized team with the task of entering the facility is going to be sent, and to that part of said team to be observant and to be aware. What we can essentially make from that notice is that all of the players that are playing this map are part of the IRO specialized team unit. And knowing that we're talking about GMOD players here, you just know that this team is perfect for the job. To make the flow of this video as smooth as possible, I will talk details about the lore throughout the whole video in segments where explaining will be necessary. And if you want it to be otherwise, I don't really care, man. It's my video. Upon loading into the map, you spawn in an area that's outside the facility's main gate. In this area, there is a train cabinet, and there are 2 tents, only one of which that you can enter, which are mostly filled with some classical Half-Life science nerdy stuff. Despite looking all intimidating and the base fact that you spawn here, there's nothing that you really find of importance in this area, except for this very cool looking drill that looks like some deformed flamethrower. This is the Omnicutter, a pivotal tool that you will need to use to access important areas in this map. It can be found in the only accessible tent laying on a wooden table. Behind it, there's a hung up blueprint which states the tool's description with very informative information, such as it not leaking anymore. Originally, instead of the Omnicutter, there should have been this massive drill that lays on a few boxes near the train cabinet that you would need to use to get into the facility by drilling a huge hole in the wall. But this idea was scrapped because this idea was similar to another game.
Originally, you were going to cut your way in with this drill. Just this whole setup. It was actually used to be right over here. It was gonna cut a big hole and then you enter through that way. But eventually I found it was too similar to a game that existed, so I just scrapped it entirely.
But to put it simply, the Omnicutter is used to cut through anything that is marked with the marking X, and you will first encounter this task when trying to open the facility's entry gate. Only upon entering the facility will you realize how massive and unsettling this map really is. The whole facility is based on an architecture style of brutalism, a style that is characterized by raw and massive concrete structures which have little to no decoration. And this area is a perfect example of that. Along the main pathway that ends with an elevator, there are 2 trees with fallen leaves which demonstrate that there's no amount of life to be witnessed in this facility. A massive clock above the elevator which looks unexplainably ugly and brutal, and massive pipes that lead to the never-ending abyss of the unknown. And if you're asking about this metronome type thing above the clock, I have no idea, man. The elevator ride is incredibly long and the atmosphere here is just executed well. The elevator sounds and the view of nothing but the 4 concrete walls that surround you just make you feel like something is incredibly wrong. And upon your uncomfortable descent, you officially step foot into area level 1. To your left, there is a massive stream of steam that is preventing you from going further into the facility. That is, if you can't clip through the steam, right God in the console, or just simply run through it. Clever gamer move. And to your right, there is a room with an engine and an interactable valve on a pipe that turns off the blocking steam in the corridor. There is also a ladder in this room that goes upwards to a little balcony, and if you couldn't tell, this is the same facility's entry room. So if you want to skip the lengthy elevator ride downwards, you can just straight up yeet yourself across the pipes to the shortcut. Convenience points maxed. On the other side of the entry room, there's also a balcony which leads to a non-interactive door from which ominous noises continuously play. Upon no clipping through the door, you're greeted with a creepy green figure which highly looks like a non-textured version of Gordon Freeman. This is Info Player Start, a model that in Hammer, a tool used to make maps in GMOD, indicates where a player is going to spawn. It can also be used in a sense of a marker, so maybe the developer marked this room for some further development or just placed it as a cool little secret. You never know. Area 1 is filled with rooms such as the office room, which has absolutely nothing of importance, but let's not forget that this is an exploration map after all. One of the strangest rooms in this area is by far the TV room, which has many TVs put into a room. The main 2 TVs that clearly separate themselves from the rest are the ones that reflect single colors of red and green. The red one plays some creepy distorted audio that I can only envision playing on a FNAF VHS tape, while the other green one plays some jingly tune. Funnily enough, despite the TVs and the audio that plays from them essentially screaming at you that they're of any importance, they're not. They're just them. The only purpose that this room has is to bottle you up with theories that the TVs mean something, only to prove you that you are dead wrong. There's also a secret room which consists of a marking from the map's developer and a simple TV playing whatever this atrocity is. To the right of leaving the TV room, there is a descent down to area level 2, but there's still some things that we need to see, such as the cheapest New York apartment's restroom. After wandering through the lengthy corridor, you will eventually end up at a ginormous garbage dump room, which gives off this powerful aura of feeling like a Counter-Strike deathmatch map. Now I, being an average GMOD player, have had an intrusive thought come to mind. What would happen if I were to throw anything into this literal pit of hell that is roaming beneath me? So I threw in my Omni Cutter, which is the most important tool that a player can use on this game. And to my convenience, the cutter returned to me by dropping itself on this rusty orange piece of metal that's laying on this pile of garbage. Surprised, I jumped into the pit myself, but later came to the calamitous realization that I am not an object. Is it a useful detail? No. Is it a cool one? Yeah. However, what is an actually useful and important detail is that the stripes on the corridor walls change based on the area that you are in. During a Mr. Wonkler's interview with the creator of Vacant Industry, Ray the Raptor stated that the stripes describe in what area you're located.
The colors on the walls have meaning. Blue is residential, green is tourism, yellow is kind of like standard factory, red, which is high heat applications, as I call it, which is the reactor end.
This is an incredibly useful detail that helps you realize if you're going to the correct zone, which will become very convenient later on when you'll have to do some unspecified tasks. Then you will find your way to this warehouse, which just casually has a massive hole sticking out from the ceiling. And I'm not gonna lie, this scene looks kind of cool. And with that, we're done with area 1 for now. I wanna go back. I'm not gonna lie, this area is unsettling. It just is. What other area can be so disturbing than a fully lit up abandoned bunker that has facility vehicles that look like some high schooler's first Blender project? The environment here feels incredibly ominous, sort of preparing me for some entity to be waiting for me around each single corner. This is the entrance gate to the reactor, if you couldn't really tell. But this is no ordinary reactor. This isn't like reactor number 4. No, this reactor is special because it controls the whole facility on its own. Fortunately, the gate is closed and interacting with this box does absolutely nothing. That's why I have to go to the reactor's control room, which can be reached by taking a short ride on this elevator.
You have no idea how long it took for me to like align this elevator properly. Why did you stop? Why is this? Turn it back on.
Inside the control room, there are 2 buttons and 2 monitors, both of which indicate that the reactor is basically done. This is where this exploration map actually starts to grant the player a set of objectives to complete in order to get access to the reactor. That's unless you go ahead and no-clip, but we're not doing that. What are you, some incredible skull? In order to get to the cooling room, you're gonna need to do some exploring because there's nothing that specifies where you need to go. So you can safely set aside at least around 20 minutes of your time just walking around the whole facility until you find out where you need to go. But don't worry, I'm gonna tell you the route. Firstly, you need to go to the sorting room, which is located near the reactor's entrance gate. First glance, it seems like there's nothing that you need from this room. That is until you go behind the track and jump down, surfing off of the walls to avoid getting your dumbass absolutely mashed by the grinder. Or you can just climb down these metal rods, but that's not fun. Then you will inevitably find your way to this absolutely ominous looking area filled with tubes that you can climb and witness perhaps the strangest object on this whole map. The meat reactor. What else is there to say? Believe it or not, this could actually be a part of this map's lore, but I will explain that fully after turning on the reactor. Area 3 is the area of the facility that you are not supposed to see. The bunk is no longer lit with lights, the main elevator that you want to call is entirely non-functional, and the ambient sounds down here are straight up unsettling. But you don't need any lights or elevators or some meat grinders because you got something better. You've now got an... You've now got an excavator, and your next unofficial objective is to get this baby up and going. The excavator only needs gas, which to be honest is a very difficult detail to notice. Because for example, during my first playthrough of the map...
Are you serious? No!
I didn't even think that the excavator is interactable. I just thought that it's some cool prop that you can spawn climber it. The gas gap surprisingly has more detail than practically the whole machine does, but it's also very difficult to see with a flashlight. But now for the burning question. Where even is the gas can? Well, remember how I said that we're not done with Area 1 yet? Back in the garbage dump room, there is a double door that leads to a path that ends with an intoxicated room full of neurotoxins. And on a big wooden box lies the bright green gas can. Now, what I've just told you took me around 15 solid minutes just to find in my first playthrough because my dumbass forgot to check the left corner of this room at the start. After dragging the... Wait, after? What did I smoke? After dragging the gas can near the gas cap, the excavator starts running, but in order to make it drive through the wall, you need to get inside it and interact with the controls. Now, you could have done this a whole different way by just straight up removing the wall entirely from the map, but I must admit that this is way cooler. Eventually, you will get into this absolutely massive room that is blooming with brutalist architecture, and I'm going to be honest, this is the room that solely made me come to the decision to write and make this video.
That actually scared me.
The atmosphere here is constructed just perfectly. The reverb, the random sounds of metal clanging, the architecture and structure of this area in general, it's just all done so well. Walking through here, I feel a genuine strong sense of dread and anxiety. And after finding this marking of what appears to be the reactor controlling the facility on the wall, I cannot lie, I actually felt a bit creeped out. But for now, we're gonna move on to get access to the reactor, but don't worry, we're gonna come back to this place for a few times later. In order to proceed to the coolant chamber, you're gonna need to wander around this whole room until you're gonna find this vent. Then you're gonna break it, go through a secondary vent, and then you will be able to proceed into the coolant room. However, there is more weird stuff. On this massive metal part, there is a marking which can actually be decoded because it is a made-up custom alphabet. However, I don't have any sheet that describes what letters according to what symbol, but the developer has stated that what this is essentially telling is that the reactor hates us.
Basically, it's just saying something along the lines of keep the coolant off or something like that.
In the coolant room, you're gonna need to turn on this coolant, which is in good condition. Good. If you're wondering what could happen if you try to turn on this damaged coolant, you now have an answer. Now, to turn on the good coolant, you're gonna need to transfer the water from the left side of pots, tubes. I don't even know how they're called. You're gonna need to transfer the water from the left side to the right side, essentially. And the way that you could do so is by interacting with this valve and turning on the coolant. And after doing so, we can actually get it inside the reactor. This is truly unbelievable. Now, as you can see, you cannot get back going the same route. So you're gonna need to go through once again another goddamn vent. Eventually, you're going to end up at this tiny pad which has a reactor's laser beam shooting itself after like 4 seconds. Now, you have two options. You can take this the safe way and go hide in each of these safe spaces, or you can risk your whole life by trying to run to the end or at least skipping like 2 of these safe spaces. Then you're gonna drop down into the strange room which just has a machine infinitely transporting metal, which looks like some chocolate bar. Then you're gonna go through another and eventually you're going to end up near a tiny elevator which transports the player between area 2 and 3. Upon entering the reactor's control room, you're gonna notice that the button that controls the cooler is shining green, and soon after pressing, you're gonna see that the temperatures are gonna start to decrease. Now, if you're impatient like me, you're most likely gonna try and roam throughout the whole facility to turn something on that lets you push the last button in the reactor's control room. But the funny thing here is that you don't need to turn on anything else. The only thing that you need to do is stay stationary for like 10 seconds and the last button will shine green. This might and most likely does seem self-explanatory and clearly obvious, but I'm saying this for a reason. A reason that cost me over 20 minutes of roaming around the whole facility desensitized, hoping that I'm going to run into something that helps me get inside the reactor. That wasn't the case. So yes, I'm not afraid to confess it, I got heavily trolled by a source man. After pushing both of the buttons, the blinds that cover the inside view of the reactor will slowly start to unroll, and you will get your first glimpse of the chaos-inducing reactor. This is the Prism, essentially the heart of the whole facility, as it controls almost everything in the whole building. The Prism is a man-made machine, but the real question is, by who? On May 5th, 2023, the map's teaser was posted onto YouTube by the creator of Vacant Industry. Despite being the teaser of the map, the video had no visuals of the map whatsoever. Instead, the entire 5-minute video was a logged dialogue between an anonymous user and the reactor of the whole facility, the Prism. In this dialogue with the unknown, we find out the purpose that the Prism embodies and arguably the most important function that heavily contributes to the lore of this map, the ability to commit self-repairs on the facility. As the video progresses, more information about the Prism is revealed, such as its ability to allocate over 1,250 petabytes of storage to scans, which is equivalent to the amount of footage that I have amassed whilst making this video. And in the ending minutes of the video, the fact that many generations since the latest terminal dialogue had passed becomes revealed, as the video ends by expressing the reactor's unbearable burden of excessive solitude when the terminal's log ends with the entry, "I am alone." After fixing the coolant and configuring the controls in the reactor's control room, you can now officially enter the reactor's room. Or that's what you would think should be like, because crouching under this metal barrier bumps you into an invisible hitbox instead of letting you wiggle your dumbass through. The only legitimate way that you can get inside the reactor is if you bring back the Omni Cutter here, which I guarantee that you left at the entry gate of the facility, you goddamn moron! Good luck jogging for the next 5 minutes. Now, you might be impatient and unbothered to go back up and bring the the omnicutter to the reactor and in result just no clip through the barrier. But joke's on you, because as you can clearly see by the amount of X's that are in the reactor's room, you 100% cannot go through this area without the omnicutter. Upon entering this area, your next objective becomes to fix the reactor with the usage of the omnicutter. There are a total of 4 markings that you need to fix, some of which require your incredible skill of 2014 Minecraft setup or coring to avoid these blue laser beams that instantly send you to the Shadow Realm upon contact. And after fixing the reactor fully, a dialogue between you and the reactor triggers. From this dialogue, we can understand more about the backstory of the whole facility and a little bit about why the facility is in the state that it is right now. A very cool addition that you now get after having fixed the reactor is the reactor's commentary on some of the rooms and areas that you enter. But now that we have fixed the reactor, we can go ahead and take a look around the facility and uncover some more hidden secrets. We're back in the scary room, guys. Oh my god! To find out more about the map's lore, we need to get inside this large pipe and get inside the small little room. And in order to get through, you will once again need to use your omnicutter. Entering this room, the mass amount of confusion and disgust that you experience is hardly explainable. The dark tonality of the whole room mixed in with random piles of breathing flesh on the ground provide the intention for you to be cautious. But again, the question is, to be cautious of what? In this room, you will find a strange dark red device which is the translator. And you will find out what you will need to translate after dragging the translator next to this panel.
Wait, what?
From these annoying beeping sounds, SSTV images can be transcribed. These panels are scattered around throughout the whole map, but the total amount of different audios that it can play are 3. The first is the green one, which prints out coolant and terminal logs stating that the coolants have been shut off manually. The second is the yellow one, which prints out the lyrics that very first song that was sung by a robot. And then there's the red one, which is corrupted in some sort of way. This is quite a vital extension to the map's lore, which essentially acts as evidence that the people that created the reactor to store and preserve this place itself tried to turn it off manually. What all this is essentially one big black maze thread. After many ages have passed, the facility started to slowly tear itself apart, which is very clearly felt when the whole place starts randomly shaking after some time goes by. It's sort of like surfing Reddit. At some posts, it just fully breaks you. The last place that I want to talk about is the one that is an area that you can access by using an explosive to break open a door. Back in the very spawn near the scientist's tent, there is a bomb that lays on a wooden box which you can use to access this secret area. Now, the developer thought ahead and knew that he would try and no-clip into this area, and doing that just sends you to the garbage dump room. So the only way you can actually get in there is to actually do it the proper way. The door that you need to place the explosive on is in the creepy big room. Entering this area, you feel like something has gone incredibly wrong. It feels like something terrible has happened and was boarded up for a reason that no one can see what's inside this area. This is Area 5, a place which is only accessible by using the explosive. The atmosphere here is top-notch. The elevator shaft leads to breathing flesh, and the rooms here look clearly abandoned. And it's really difficult to explain this without sounding cliche, but the ambient sounds here are genuine fear-inducing. This is the residential area where most likely some sort of scientists were doing research and experiments in. However, the room that stands out the most in this area is what I recall to be the experimentation room. This room looks ominously empty and looks like some experiment caused all of this chaos inside this facility. There is also a marking that you can fully see by breaking this block of concrete.
Should say something along the lines of, it hates us.
So, what does this all mean? Throughout this video, small parts of the lore were explained, but the whole story was never constructed. And it's finally time for the story to come clear. Millions of years ago, the predecessors, incredibly smart humans living in the Ice Age, built this facility for the purpose to try and survive. Then they built this reactor that controls the whole facility called the Prisms, and uploaded parts of their brains and told the reactor to keep this place intact. Then the predecessor started to mess with the reactor, making it apply violence on its own creators. In attempts to stop this, the predecessors turned off the coolants in hopes that the reactor would stop working. Instead, the reactor was damaged but was still trying to preserve the place on its own. The parts of flesh on this map are the reactor's way of trying to create life in the facility in general, whether that would be to help itself escape the lengthy state of being alone or to have them fix the reactor in the facility is unknown but up for debate. And after all these centuries of being all alone, spending the greatest of efforts to maintain this facility, yet sadly in the poorest conditions, which is clearly slowly falling apart, you come into this facility and discover traits of a formerly lost intelligent human race and the scary burden of being left all alone, which you can clearly see from the reactor. And that was the dark story of Vacant Industry. Vacant Industry is a Garry's Mod map worth playing, especially if you're a fan of some of the most ominous looking areas and maps which feature a story that you can follow along with. The lore of this map is a bit messy and can be a bit hard to follow along with. The main concept of creating an ominous facility which essentially acts as a museum for a now extinct intelligent human race and have it be patrolled by a fully alone and conscious AI sort of reactor is unsettling. It's not exactly an ARG, even though it does have the SSTV images that you need to transcribe from audio manually, but the rest of the story is told pretty much inside the game. Overall, I enjoy playing this map very much, that being both with friends and alone while stacking footage for this video. I miss having storage. As always, I am constantly trying to improve my content and communication with my viewers, so if there's anything that you want me to know, write it down in the comments below. And with that said, I'm gonna go play some Fortnite or some Counter-Strike because holy shit, this took so long to edit.